There are moments in life where silence speaks louder than words. Think about it. How many times have you wished you could take back something you said in anger, frustration, or pride? Words once spoken can never be returned. But silence is power. It is control. It is strategy. Most people think silence means weakness, that if you don't speak up immediately, you're losing. But the truth is the exact opposite. Silence is a weapon. It's the art of saying nothing while gaining everything. And when you master it, you stop being reactive, you stop wasting your energy, and you start moving with intention. There are 9 moments in life where silence can protect you, elevate you, and even save you. 9 situations where saying nothing will do more for your growth, your peace, and your success than 1,000 words ever could. As you listen, I want you to imagine yourself in these situations. See where you've made mistakes before, where your words created storms, and where silence could have been your shield. By the end of this, you'll realize that silence isn't emptiness. It's wisdom, it's strength, and it's the mark of a person who refuses to let emotions or others dictate their life. So let me ask you, are you ready to discover when to hold your tongue, when to let silence speak for you, and when to use quiet as your greatest power? Because once you learn this, you'll never look at silence the same way again. When emotions are running high, silence becomes your shield. Think about the last time you were angry, the last time someone pushed you to the edge. Your heartbeat was racing, your face felt hot, and your mind was spinning with words you wanted to throw back at them. In that moment, every fiber of your body was demanding that you defend yourself, that you strike back, that you say something sharp enough to cut the other person down. But here's the truth. When emotions take the driver's seat, wisdom takes the back seat. You stop thinking clearly, you stop seeing the bigger picture. You become a slave to the moment. And it's in those moments where silence is not only the smarter choice but the most powerful one. Silence in the heat of emotion is not about being weak. It's about refusing to let the fire inside you spill out and burn everything in its path. Words spoken in anger can destroy relationships in seconds. A sentence shouted in frustration can leave scars that take years to heal. But silence gives you space. It gives you time. It allows you to step back and ask yourself, is what I'm about to say going to fix the situation or make it worse? Most of the time when you answer honestly, you'll find that silence is the wiser path. Imagine yourself in an argument with someone you deeply care about. They're throwing accusations, they're saying things you know aren't true, they're pressing every button they know you have. Your instinct is to match their fire with fire. But what happens then? You enter a battlefield where no one wins. Voices rise, respect disappears, and love gets buried under the ashes of pride. But if you stay silent, you're not surrendering, you're giving yourself room to breathe. You're giving the storm time to pass. You're showing that your self-control is stronger than their attempt to drag you down into chaos. Silence in high emotion is also a form of discipline. It's easy to speak, it's easy to let your mouth run faster than your mind. But discipline is about doing what is hard, not what is easy. When you remain silent, you're proving to yourself that you have mastery over your impulses. And mastery over yourself is the foundation of power. You cannot influence others. You cannot lead. You cannot succeed in the bigger battles of life if you're constantly losing the smaller battle with your own emotions. Silence teaches you patience. It teaches you strength. It forces you to face the discomfort of the moment without trying to escape it through reckless words. Think about great leaders, people you admire. They don't shout every time they're challenged. They don't explode at the first sign of disrespect. They know that silence in heated moments allows them to see clearly, to choose their words with precision, and to strike when the time is right. Silence is strategy, because while everyone else is losing control, you are conserving energy, reading the situation, and preparing your next move. You are not reacting, you are responding, and there is a massive difference between the two. Reaction is impulsive, response is calculated. Reaction burns bridges. Response builds them, or at the very least ensures you don't collapse them yourself. Now I want you to reflect on this. How many battles in your life were not worth fighting, but you fought them anyway because you couldn't control your emotions? How many times have you spoken words you wish you could erase? That apology you had to make after your anger cooled, that relationship that never fully healed, that opportunity that slipped away because you couldn't hold your tongue for just a few minutes longer. Silence prevents those losses. It protects your future from the mistakes of your present. But silence doesn't just protect you from damage, it also transforms how people see you. When you refuse to speak in the middle of chaos, others notice. They see your composure. They see that you're not easily shaken. They see that you value peace more than proving a point. And ironically, people respect you more when you don't always feel the need to explain yourself. They recognize strength and restraint. They realize you're someone who doesn't get tossed around by every emotional wave. You stand steady. You stand firm. Of course, silence doesn't mean you never speak. It means you speak when your emotions no longer control your mouth. It means you wait until your words can bring clarity, not confusion, healing, not hurt. There's a saying, don't make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. The same applies to words. Don't create permanent wounds with temporary anger. Your silence gives you time to let the emotional storm settle, so that when you finally open your mouth, what comes out is truth, wisdom, and power, not poison. Picture this. Someone disrespects you publicly. They throw an insult, they try to provoke you, they want to see you lose your cool. If you react immediately, they win. They get what they wanted. But if you remain silent, you rob them of their victory. You maintain your dignity. You prove that your worth isn't determined by someone else's words. And that silence will echo louder than any comeback ever could. People will remember your calm far longer than they would remember your anger. So the next time your emotions are running high, remember this: silence is not empty. It's full of power, control, and wisdom. It's a choice that says, I refuse to let this moment define me. I refuse to let my tongue betray my heart. I refuse to give my enemy satisfaction. Your silence doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're strong enough to walk away from a war that doesn't deserve your presence. It means you trust yourself enough to wait for the right time, the right place, and the right words. And when that moment comes, your words will carry weight, because they weren't born out of impulse but out of intention. The greatest strength you can show when your emotions are at their peak is the strength of silence. It's the pause between thought and action. It's the invisible armor that shields you from regret. And it's the quiet confidence that tells the world, I am in control of me. You cannot break me. You cannot drag me into chaos. That kind of silence is not weakness. It is unshakable strength. Listening is one of the most underestimated forms of power you can ever develop. People think power comes from speaking, from dominating the conversation, from making sure your voice is heard above everyone else's. But real influence, the kind that leaves a lasting impression, doesn't come from how much you talk. It comes from how well you listen. Because when you listen, you gather information. You learn. You observe. And in that silence, you gain an advantage that the loudest person in the room will never have. Have you ever noticed that the people who speak the most are often the ones who reveal the most? They expose their fears, their insecurities, their desires, even their weaknesses. And the person who is quietly listening, who doesn't rush to interrupt, is the one collecting all of that knowledge. That person is the one with the real power. Because the more you know, the better decisions you can make, the better you can respond, the better you can protect yourself. Silence while listening is not passive. It's an active choice to put yourself in a position of strength. Think of a negotiation. Two people sit across the table, and one of them cannot stop talking. They're explaining, justifying, defending, oversharing, trying to fill every second with words. The other person says very little. They nod, they watch, they ask short, simple questions. Who has the power in this exchange? It's the one who is listening. Because the one who talks too much often ends up giving away their position. But the one who listens, who stays silent, who studies the body language, the tone, the choice of words, they walk away with the upper hand. Silence makes listening a weapon in strategy, in business, in relationships, and in life. Listening also makes people feel valued. And this is where the hidden power lies. When someone feels like you are genuinely paying attention to them, when you're not rushing to jump in with your own story or your own opinion, they feel respected. They feel safe. And that makes them open up more. That creates trust. And trust is influence. People will follow someone who makes them feel heard. They will respect someone who doesn't just speak but actually understands them. The irony is, you gain more authority by saying less and listening more. But here's where most people get it wrong. They confuse hearing with listening. Hearing is passive. It's letting words enter your ears while your mind is already planning what you're going to say next. Listening is active. It's putting your ego aside and focusing fully on the other person. It's watching the way their eyes shift, noticing when their voice cracks, paying attention to the words they don't say. Listening requires patience. It requires silence, and it requires humility. But the reward is worth it. People trust you, confide in you, and often reveal things they wouldn't tell anyone else. Think about conflicts. When someone is angry at you, their instinct is to lash out, to test if you're going to fight back. Most people interrupt, defend, argue, but if you stay quiet and listen, something powerful happens. Their anger eventually burns out. Their words slow down, and in that space, they begin to realize they're talking more than you are. Often they reveal what's really bothering them, something deeper than the surface level anger. And because you didn't interrupt, because you allowed silence to guide the moment, you now have the knowledge to respond effectively. Listening disarms people. It takes the tension out of the room. It gives you the wisdom to act with precision instead of reaction. Listening also sharpens your intuition. You begin to notice patterns in people's behavior. You pick up on what they value, what they fear, what they avoid. Most of this is not spoken directly. It's in the pauses, the slips of the tongue, the little contradictions in their stories. When you're always the one talking, you miss these signals. But when you remain silent, when you let others fill the air, you start to see more clearly than those who can't stop speaking. Your silence turns into clarity, and clarity gives you control. In relationships, whether personal or professional, listening is the bridge to connection. Everyone is desperate to be heard. Everyone is waiting for someone who won't cut them off, who won't judge them, who won't turn the conversation back to themselves. When you become that person, you gain influence that words alone could never give you. People will come to you not because you have all the answers, but because you gave them the space to find their own. That is powerful beyond measure. And let's not forget, sometimes listening saves you from danger. People often reveal their true intentions if you let them speak long enough. The friend who isn't really a friend, the colleague who secretly envies you, the stranger who doesn't have your best interests at heart, they will show their hand if you give them space to talk. Silence allows their truth to surface. If you're always the one talking, you'll miss the warning signs. But if you're silent and attentive, you'll see them coming long before they can harm you. Listening can literally protect your future. So ask yourself this. When you walk into a room, do you want to be the person everyone hears or the person everyone respects? The loudest person may get attention, but the quiet listener gains insight, trust, and influence. Words can impress people temporarily, but listening makes people remember you permanently. The next time you're tempted to interrupt, to speak just so your voice is heard, hold back. Stay silent for a moment longer. Watch. Listen. You'll be amazed at how much power you gain simply by giving others the space to speak. Because the less you say, the more you hear. And the more you hear, the more you know. Knowledge is power, and that power is only available to those who understand the value of silence. Silence while listening is not emptiness, it is fullness. It is the art of receiving before you give, of understanding before you respond, of observing before you decide. It places you in control, not because you said the right words, but because you had the wisdom to withhold them. That's what gives you strength. That's what gives you presence. And that's what makes silence, when used to listen, one of the greatest sources of power you'll ever have. There are times in life when the smartest thing you can do is say nothing, because the wrong words at the wrong moment can turn a small spark into a raging fire. Words have weight. Once they leave your lips, they can't be pulled back, no matter how badly you wish you could erase them. And when you speak in a heated or delicate situation, those words can make the situation worse than it ever needed to be. That is why silence, in certain moments, is not only wise, it is necessary. Think about conflict. Two people are arguing, emotions are high, and the air is heavy with tension. In that moment, most people believe they need to win by having the last word, by striking harder with their tongue, by making sure they are heard. But what happens when both sides keep escalating? What was once a minor disagreement becomes a war of egos. Insults are thrown, respect is lost, and the bond between them cracks. All because no one was willing to let silence step in and cool the fire. The truth is, silence in that moment could have saved both people from damage. It could have given them space to breathe, to reflect, to return to the conversation with clarity instead of rage. Words have the power to heal, but they also have the power to wound. And the wounds caused by words often cut deeper than physical ones. People forget what you say in moments of kindness, but they rarely forget what you say in moments of anger. A sharp insult, a reckless phrase, or a careless remark can linger in someone's heart for years. It can destroy trust in a relationship, ruin your reputation in a workplace, or close doors to opportunities that may never open again. That's why, when faced with a tense or volatile situation, the best thing you can do is hold your tongue. Because silence can never be misquoted. Silence can never be used against you. Silence cannot be twisted or turned into a weapon to harm you later. Consider this. Sometimes people want you to react. They provoke you intentionally. They poke at your insecurities. They gossip about you. They try to pull you into their drama. They're hoping you'll say something you regret so they can point at you and say, "See, I knew it." But when you refuse to give them your words, when you remain calm and silent, you rob them of their power. They can throw all the bait in the world, but you won't bite. And that frustrates them more than any insult you could throw back. Silence in those moments is not weakness. It is control. It is you saying, "I choose not to give you the satisfaction of seeing me lose myself." There are also times when words can make a problem heavier because they add unnecessary fuel. Imagine being in a meeting at work where someone disagrees with you. You know their opinion is not entirely accurate, and your instinct is to immediately correct them, to prove your point, to make sure everyone sees that you are right. But what does that do? It shifts the focus from the issue to your ego. It creates tension where it didn't need to exist. Sometimes silence, just allowing the other person to speak, even if you know better, gives you the long-term advantage. Because people remember composure more than they remember who won an argument in the moment. Your silence protects your credibility, and your credibility is worth far more than a temporary victory. Think about social media. People argue online, wasting hours of their lives typing words back and forth, trying to prove their point to strangers they will never meet. In the end, no one changes their mind, but both sides walk away drained, angry, and distracted. That is a perfect example of when words worsen a situation. If instead you had stayed silent, kept your peace, and walked away, you would have preserved your energy for something that truly matters. Not every battle deserves your voice. Not every argument deserves your energy. Sometimes silence is the only response that shows maturity. Silence also teaches patience. When you don't rush to speak, you allow time to work in your favor. Many situations resolve themselves without you having to say a word. The person who was angry cools down. The lie that was spoken about you gets exposed by the truth. The drama that was swirling around you burns out because you didn't feed it with your words. Time has a way of revealing what's real, And when you choose silence, you step out of the storm and let it collapse on its own. That is wisdom. The danger of speaking, when words will worsen a situation, is that you often give away too much of yourself. You show your triggers. You expose your insecurities. You reveal what gets under your skin. And once people know how to provoke you, they will use that knowledge against you. But if you remain silent, you keep your power. You remain unpredictable. They cannot read you. They cannot control you. They cannot drag you into their chaos. That mystery, that self-control, makes you untouchable. Of course, silence doesn't mean you never speak. It means you speak when the moment is right, when your words can add value instead of destruction. It means you wait until your emotions have settled, until you have thought clearly, until you can respond instead of react. And when you finally do speak, your words carry weight because they are intentional, not impulsive. People listen when you rarely speak, because they know that if you broke your silence, it must matter. That kind of respect cannot be earned by constantly talking. It is earned by knowing when not to. So the next time you feel the urge to defend yourself, to lash out, to throw words like stones in the middle of a conflict, pause. Ask yourself, will my words solve this problem or will they make it worse? If the answer is worse, choose silence. Protect your peace. Guard your dignity. Let silence do the work that words cannot. Because in the end, silence will always leave you with fewer regrets, more control, and far greater strength than reckless words ever could. There comes a point in life where you realize that your energy and your dignity are two of the most valuable things you own. Your energy is the fuel that drives you, the inner fire that keeps you focused and motivated. Your dignity is the shield that protects your sense of self-worth, the quiet strength that reminds you who you are, even when the world tries to tear you down. And the truth is, not everyone deserves access to either. Not every situation deserves a response, and not every person deserves your words. Sometimes silence is the only way to protect both your energy and your dignity. Think about how many times you've exhausted yourself explaining, defending, or justifying who you are to people who had no intention of understanding you. You've poured your energy into arguments, into long explanations, into trying to convince people of your truth. And what did it cost you? Hours of your life, peace of mind, and the frustration that comes from realizing they weren't listening in the first place. That's the trap, believing you owe everyone an explanation. You don't. Silence is your reminder that you are not required to prove yourself to anyone. Your value does not increase or decrease based on whether someone else sees it. When you choose silence, you are telling the world, my energy is too precious to be wasted on those who cannot receive it. With respect, you are choosing to walk away from endless debates with people who thrive on draining you. You are deciding that your peace matters more than winning a temporary argument. And most importantly, you are showing yourself that your dignity is not up for negotiation. No one has the right to pull you down into their chaos unless you give them permission. Silence is you refusing to hand over that permission. There are people who thrive on your reaction. They test you. They push your buttons. They try to provoke you. They want to see you lose control because it gives them power over you. The moment you respond with anger, with insults, with desperate attempts to defend yourself, they have won. They've managed to drag you down to their level. But when you stay silent, when you refuse to give them the reaction they crave, you take back your power. You show them that you cannot be manipulated, that your dignity is stronger than their attempts to break it. Your silence becomes the loudest message you can send. You don't control me. Protecting your energy also means recognizing that not every battle is worth fighting. Life will present you with countless opportunities to argue, to prove yourself, to jump into conflict. But every time you do, you spend energy that you could have used for something greater. Energy is like currency. You only have so much of it in a day. If you waste it on meaningless disputes, you won't have enough left for your goals, your dreams, and the people who truly matter. Silence is a form of budgeting your energy. It's choosing not to spend it recklessly on people or situations that don't deserve it. There's also a deep connection between silence and dignity. Dignity is about holding your head high even when others try to tear you down. It's about knowing your worth and refusing to let anyone lower it with their words or actions. When you stay silent in the face of disrespect, you are not agreeing with it. You are rising above it. You are showing that your character is too strong to be shaken by petty insults or small-minded attacks. In fact, silence often embarrasses the person who tried to provoke you more than any comeback ever could. They expected a fight, but instead they are left alone with their own words, echoing back at them. Protecting your dignity with silence also frees you from regret. When you speak in anger or frustration, you often end up saying things that don't align with your true self. Later, when the emotions fade, you feel guilty, ashamed, or disappointed in yourself. But when you choose silence, you give yourself the gift of peace. You don't have to backtrack. You don't have to apologize for things you didn't mean. And you don't have to live with the weight of words spoken in haste. Silence protects not only your dignity in the eyes of others, but also your dignity in the eyes of yourself. Think about situations where silence communicates more than words ever could. When someone disrespects you in public and you don't retaliate, your silence speaks volumes. It says, I am untouchable. You cannot drag me down. When gossip spreads about you and you don't rush to defend yourself, your silence says, the truth doesn't need me to shout, it will reveal itself in time. When people misunderstand you, but you refuse to waste energy explaining yourself to the wrong audience, your silence says, my worth is not up for debate. These silent statements are louder, stronger, and more dignified than any verbal defense could ever be.
Silence also sets boundaries.
When you stop explaining yourself to those who don't deserve explanations, when you stop engaging with negativity, you teach people how to treat you. You show them that you will not participate in their drama. You show them that you don't entertain disrespect. Over time, people learn that your silence is not emptiness. It is a boundary they cannot cross. And those who fail to respect it, they simply fall away because you've denied them the reaction they were seeking. But the greatest benefit of protecting your energy and dignity through silence is that it gives you back your focus. Instead of wasting time and energy on nonsense, you can pour it into your growth, your goals, and the things that truly bring you fulfillment. Every time you choose silence over conflict, you are choosing yourself. You are telling your future, I am not wasting time here. I'm moving forward. That decision compounds over time. It creates peace, clarity, and strength. And those are the building blocks of a powerful life. So the next time you're tempted to explain yourself to someone who has already made up their mind, or to argue with someone who only wants to drain your energy, pause. Ask yourself, does this conversation protect my dignity or does it weaken it? Does this exchange fuel my energy or does it waste it? If the answer doesn't serve your growth, choose silence. Because silence is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the highest form of self-respect. And it is the shield that protects the two things you cannot afford to lose, your energy and your dignity. There are times in life when the best thing you can do is remain silent and let the truth reveal itself. The temptation to speak, to defend yourself, to correct every lie or every misunderstanding can feel overwhelming. You want to shout your side of the story. You want to clear your name, prove your innocence, make sure the world knows who you really are. But here's the reality. The more you chase validation from others, the less power you hold. Truth has a way of rising on its own, and silence is often the greatest ally you have in allowing that process to happen. When people lie about you, when rumors spread, your instinct may be to fight back with words. But ask yourself, what does that really achieve? The more you try to argue against lies, the more attention you give them. You end up feeding the very narrative you're trying to destroy. People begin to think, if they're defending themselves this much, maybe the lie has some truth. That's how manipulation works. And that's why silence in these moments can be the strongest move you make. It communicates that you don't feel the need to chase approval or to prove yourself to anyone. You know the truth, and that's enough. Eventually, time does the work for you. Lies fade. Deception crumbles, but truth stands. Consider this. When someone constantly defends themselves, people stop listening to their words and start questioning their motives. But when someone remains calm and silent, refusing to be dragged into arguments, they project confidence. They signal, I have nothing to prove. The truth doesn't need my help. That quiet strength earns respect. Even those who may have doubted you at first begin to wonder why you're so composed. And over time, the truth emerges, as it always does, making your silence look like wisdom rather than weakness. Life has a way of exposing what is real. Lies require effort. They must be maintained, repeated, and reinforced constantly. But the truth requires nothing. It simply exists. That's why those who lie eventually get caught in their own web. Their story changes, their actions contradict their words, and eventually people start seeing the holes. If you stay silent long enough, you allow the liar to unravel themselves. You don't have to fight, they'll destroy their own credibility. Your silence gives them the rope to tie their own knots. Think about situations in your personal life. Maybe someone accused you of something you didn't do. Maybe they tried to twist events to make you look bad. You could argue, you could explain, you could shout until your throat is sore, but sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing. Because the truth has a way of knocking louder than any words you could say. The people who matter, the ones with discernment, will eventually see it. And the ones who refuse to see it were never truly on your side. To begin with, why waste your breath on them? There's also dignity in silence when the truth is being tested. Imagine a courtroom. Lawyers argue, witnesses speak, but the judge and jury often pay more attention to what is not said than what is shouted. In life, you are both the witness and the defendant of your own character. Every time you stay silent instead of lashing out, you are letting your actions be your testimony. Over time, consistent actions will always outweigh temporary words. The truth doesn't need a speech, it needs proof. And silence allows your life itself to be that proof. Silence, when waiting for the truth, is also an act of trust. It's trust in yourself, trust in time, and trust in the natural law that lies never last forever. It's not easy. Your pride will want to fight back. Your ego will want to scream, but silence teaches you patience. It reminds you that not every battle has to be fought with words. Some battles are won by endurance, by allowing the truth to slowly reveal itself, like the sunrise, inevitable, undeniable, unstoppable. Think about the people who underestimated you, who doubted you, who said you couldn't achieve something. The urge to argue with them, to prove them wrong immediately, is natural. But silence in those moments is more powerful. Because when you succeed, when you rise, when you achieve what they said you couldn't, your results speak louder than anything you could have said. Your success becomes your proof. Your silence becomes the ultimate response. You don't have to tell them they were wrong. Your life does it for you. There's also another layer to silence. When it comes to truth, it protects your peace. When you constantly chase the need to be understood, you give away your energy to people who may never care about the truth anyway. Not everyone deserves access to your side of the story. Not everyone deserves your explanations. Some people are committed to misunderstanding you no matter what you say. So why waste your breath? Silence allows you to conserve your energy for the people and the situations that actually matter. And here's something important to remember. Silence does not mean approval. Just because you didn't respond doesn't mean you agreed. It means you chose not to lower yourself. It means you chose not to play a game where the rules were stacked against you. It means you valued your peace over pointless battles. In fact, silence often leaves people unsettled. They don't know what you're thinking. They don't know how to interpret your calm. And that uncertainty is far more powerful than anything you could have said. So the next time someone lies about you, the next time gossip tries to damage your name, the next time you feel the pressure to speak before the truth has had its chance to reveal itself, pause. Ask yourself, do I trust myself enough to stay silent? Do I trust that the truth doesn't need me to scream for it? Because once you realize that the truth is its own defense, you will find incredible strength in silence. The truth will always reveal itself. It may take time. It may test your patience, but it cannot be hidden forever. Lies are temporary, but truth is eternal. And your silence in the face of lies is not weakness. It's a declaration of faith in that eternal truth. In the end, the world will see, and when it does, your silence will be remembered, not as defeat, but as the quiet confidence of someone who knew the truth, didn't need defending. At the end of the day, silence is not about weakness, it's about wisdom. It is about knowing when your voice will create impact and when your silence will protect your peace, your dignity, and your power in a world where everyone is shouting to be heard. Silence becomes a rare strength. It allows you to rise above arguments, to maintain your energy, to let the truth unfold without forcing it. Silence does not mean you are blind. It does not mean you are passive. It means you are choosing to control yourself rather than trying to control others. The strongest people are not the ones who always speak the loudest. They are the ones who know when to hold their tongue, when to walk away, and when to let time and truth do the talking for them. So learn to embrace silence as a weapon, as a shield, and as a form of discipline. Not every battle requires your words. Not every storm requires your defense. Sometimes your greatest power lies in the choice to say nothing at all. Remember this, your silence carries weight. It can disarm your enemies, protect your energy, and allow your character to shine brighter than any explanation ever could. So stand firm, stay calm, and let your silence speak for you. Because in the end, silence is not empty. It is full of strength, full of clarity, and full of truth.